Hey listeners, yeah, we're talking to you. We're Depth of Darkness, the podcast that dives deep into all things dark and wrong in this world. I'm Mandy.
I'm retired Major Huge Ass. In your face.
If you like true crime, horror movie reviews, real-life paranormal experiences, creepypastas, and diving deep into the unknown, then join us on this journey into the darkness. You can find us on all podcast platforms simply by searching Depth of Darkness. So go ahead, give us a listen. You know you want to.
Thank you for letting us in.
I was burying bodies out in the desert.
Neighbors claimed they practice witchcraft.
You just straight clicked that button and pointed at me like some magic was going to happen.
Well, you said that you were going to start this week.
I did, the first take.
That's true.
That's what I've got for you.
That's the key word. She said she was going to start the first take. After that,
And then you fucked it up.
we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. After about the first, second, third, fourth, fifth take, it's really just what comes out of our mouths at that point and into the mics and through your ear holes. And, you know, you better appreciate it anyway. That's all I'm saying.
Was that a threat?
Yes, you damn well believe that it was a threat. It was a pure threat, a threat of the most high.
Always good to start the show off with a threat. Anyway,
Always.
welcome back, folks. I'm Katie. This is Kenny.
Am I? Am I?
You are.
I don't know some days.
You are. We have to reaffirm it in the mirror each morning. I just repeat my name for 7 minutes while staring unblinkingly into my reflection. It's good. It's called self-care.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage it just to, center yourself, focus yourself inside. This whole being home thing was fine when the weather was okay for me to go outside and understand that there's a world, but I haven't been outside of my house in probably about 17 days, literally, which is just not. It's just not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not good when you quit leaving the door of your house. Go for a walk.
Yeah.
Maybe take an umbrella if it's raining, but you gotta. I'm worried. I'm worried about agoraphobia over here. I'm worried it's happening.
Yeah. So for me, this was really interesting. I haven't told you this. The other night, I fell asleep listening to one of those I think you call them binaural sounds.
Oh yeah.
That you can find online. I think I just searched it on my Apple Music or whatever, and I was just binaural beats for to leave my body.
Hell yeah.
For astral projection.
Did you really?
I did. And I just laid there and I turned off all of the lights and I just listened, and I actually fell asleep, but had a horrible nightmare.
Did you leave your body? Question for you. When you astral projected, were you still husky?
Yes.
The world wants to know.
Yes. Hot take. Still fat.
Damn it.
Yes, still fat. Had a nightmare. And the reason why I bring it up is because when you mentioned looking in the mirror, it reminded me. Had a nightmare that I went into the bathroom, looked at myself, and there were just cuts everywhere. All over my face.
That's alarming. I'm sure that doesn't mean anything. I'm sure that doesn't reflect poorly on your sanity.
On my mental state. Yeah. So there's that.
Monitoring the situation.
Yeah,
we'll
we're just
report
doing
with
it,
updates.
I may try it again. We'll see.
I want to try it, but also, here's the thing. I need to know, do carbs exist on the astral plane? Because if not, I could just spend more of my time there, and we could get some traction with this quarantine dieting.
I'm gonna say no. But
potentially I could just feed off souls
That's
at that point. And if we could really make that full transition, if we could get into keto has the fat burning mode, if we could get into the soul burning mode, and we could just kind of leave nutrition behind and just absorb the souls of others to fuel energy. I feel like there's something to that. I feel like that's the path, maybe.
well.
Maybe that's what Ben Stiller's character in Fat Camp or in Heavyweights. Maybe that's what maybe he was in soul burning mode.
I just feel like you need the Lord. At that point, if you're consuming souls and your astral self is consuming souls,
Yeah,
we might have a problem.
it's a lot. Do the ends justify the means? Some might say. Others might say no, they don't.
And
actually,
others,
if you get far enough into the Star Wars lore, they actually get into like this whole like consumption of souls and like eating of planets and shit. Like the Sith stuff. I don't think you're very acquainted with the whole Star Wars thing. I could be
I'm
wrong.
not, no,
you could be
I'm
hiding a secret knowledge from me. But yeah, if you go pretty deep into the Star Wars lore, the Sith get into some fucking dark shit of like eating planets and like consuming whole worlds. It's fucking goth.
okay.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. The problem is you have to put up with a lot of like Star Wars shit to get there, to get to those.
I was never into Star Wars or Star Trek.
I know. You don't have to say that and
I
hurt
know.
me every time.
I know.
The Star Wars games are cooler than the like movies and stuff. And as a kid, I was only really shown the movies, but the games is like the fucking metal shit of like eating planets and shit. Like
Wow.
it gets more into the Sith side of things as opposed to like the Jedi side of things. And the Sith side of things is pretty cool. It's pretty metal. So anyway, in case you're looking for something to do in quarantine,
Okay.
check out the fucking Star Wars lore.
Well, that was our Star
cool.
Wars corner, which has absolutely nothing to do with our show.
It'll never happen again.
or even what we will eventually talk about today. But what we are going to talk about right now, at this very moment, are some really cool people that decided to join our Patreon. I know you guys, listen, I know you guys love us, and we appreciate that. But, like, wow.
Y'all really out here making us do these invocations.
Really make us work.
They really are. They out here making us send this energy every episode.
I know. It's a lot. I really appreciate it, though.
Yeah. Mad cool. Thank you so much for supporting us, especially during a like particularly like difficult time with the quarantine and everything. Again, I just hope everybody's taking care of themselves too. Mm-hmm. Before you take care of us, you got to take care of you, baby. But yeah, no, it's been really cool, the support that we have received. So we have 2 candles in front of us today, dressed with good intentions for health, wealth, and happiness as we induct and invoke our 2 new members of the Patreon family. And I will start us off with Courtney E., who is our brand new trash talent aficionado.
And welcome, Corey, to our Stay Spooky Squad.
All right, Darklings, your candles are lit and they will sit beside our mic stands through the end of the episode, burning forever and always in our dark, dark hearts.
Dark hearts, indeed.
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 So what are we talking about today?
I guess it's my turn to talk.
My gal.
I don't really know.
It is. It is because I don't have anything prepared. No, I'm kidding.
Shit. Well,
I'm sitting on a couple eggs over here for you like a little chicken, like a little hen.
like
but
Alyssa Edwards says, sitting on a secret.
absolutely, I am sitting on a couple.
Oh, okay.
But nah, this week's your week, so
It
you got to tell
is
me a
my
story
week.
this week.
It is my week. It is.
Why do you sound so disappointed?
No, I'm not disappointed. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk about this topic today. It's really, really, really interesting, really creepy. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I just want to make sure. Folks at home, are you ready? I don't care if you are or not, because I'm going anyway.
I'm going in.
I'm going in.
Like a bad date. I don't care if you're ready or not.
I'm going in. I'm just going to spit on it, and I'm going in.
Here's a public service announcement before we get started, because I'm really passionate about this. Never let somebody use spit as a lubricant for you. Don't do it, baby. You worth more than that. Come on now.
I see that, and I'm like,
You worth so much more than that.
I just don't know how that works. But
It
I see
doesn't,
even the
is the
bottoms
key.
doing it sometimes, too. They'd just be like, and then do that.
The
And I'm
key,
like,
the key is that it doesn't work, really. It's just kind of like a mental thing. If you like it, that's fine. Just go ahead and make sure that you have a thorough application of a good, high-quality, water-based lube. And then you can do the for show. You know what I mean?
Some people, I don't know, maybe they like the friction. I don't know. I don't understand it. But yes, a water-based lubricant is great, or even an aloe-based lubricant. You can use
true.
those too. Those are
As
great.
long as you're not allergic, girl.
Well, I mean, make sure you're not allergic.
work on that.
You don't want that. But anyway, we're using that
You're
today.
worth more. You're worth more than that. You're worth an aloe-based.
I love that. The Haunted Heart podcast. You're worth more. That's what they say every time they listen to this show. It's in the back of their heads, like, you're worth more.
Can that be our next promo?
For sure.
the show?
For fucking sure.
You're worth more. Anyway, sorry for that total sidelining, but
They're
it needed
used to
be
it by
said.
now. And if they're new and then they don't like it, well, they've left already. So we don't care. So yes, I am going to take us back to the late winter of 1922.
Girl, you love a time machine.
I do.
You do love the way back machine, don't you?
I do love the way back machine. And that's because, like, the future is typically,
Bleak.
and dark. And, so is the past and so is the present. So
Yeah.
I don't really have a point. But here we go. So I'm going to take us back. There's this little farm in Bavaria, Germany, at a time that was hard for many people in those rural. I always really struggle
Yeah,
at this
it's
word.
rural. Rural's a tough one. Rural.
Because the country in me just wants to say rural,
Rural.
but it's a really hard word. I hate this word.
It is. Rural
farmland,
God,
girl.
it doesn't even feel
Girl,
good in
it was
your
hard
mouth.
for these people at these farms and these lands
in a country.
in the country.
It
It was hard for these people in the country. So this little farm was located about 43 miles from Munich and sat to itself. It was a humble homestead built in the late 1800s that was made of stone and situated in an L shape on the property. It had a barn, tool shed, a well, typical things that you would see on any small farm. And it was inhabited by Andreas Gruber, who was 63.
Gruber. Love a good German name.
Casilia Gruber, 72. Their widowed daughter, Victoria, 35. And her two children, Casilia Jr. and Joseph.
Let me tell you
Joseph?
what. The name, Cancilia.
Casilia.
Cacilia?
Kaciazilia.
Cacilia.
Casilia.
Into it.
Casilia.
I'm writing it down. I like that one.
So the family also had a live-in maid.
It sounds like one more thing on that name, because I'm really not able to let it go. It sounds like a really, really high top shelf brand of concealer. Cazilia. You know what I mean? Like that is Jeffree Star's new line of concealer.
Well, I hope it's full coverage. But anyway, the family also had a live-in maid by the name of Maria Baumgartner, who was 44. Maria was the family's second maid within a 6-month period. The first maid quit, allegedly citing odd occurrences that were happening on the farm. Strange voices, disembodied footsteps in the attic. It would soon come to pass that her gut instincts to leave were extremely well warranted.
As they often are.
6 months after her departure, the entire family, as well as the new maid, were found systematically slaughtered on the farm, with little to no clues as to who killed them and why.
I'm sorry. I just want to congratulate you on the research that you've done and the way you've laid this story out. But I am having some trouble today because every now and then you'll throw a phrase in like a humble homestead and systematically murdered on the farm that just sound like the names of novellas to me. Like it sounds like we're going to check out a humble homestead from the library. We're going to see what that's all about. Systematically murdered on the farm.
Is that, systematically murdered on the farm. That is the...
Why does that sound like the name of like a photo series that we would do for the podcast?
It's my autobiography.
It's just us with livestock.
Listen.
Just in horrible murder scenes of us, not the animals.
Murder scene, but make it fashion.
Absolutely. We're on to something there.
I'm pretty sure America's Next Top Model had that covered many years ago. But... So before I get into some of the strange occurrences that were happening, I want to talk about the family a little more. So the family was known to be rather reclusive. And with reclusivity in small towns, we get what?
Rumors.
We get
rumors about Gruber.
Rumors.
Gruber rumor.
Or you could say Gruber gossip.
Gruber
gossip.
But Gruber rumor rhymes. Gruber rumor.
That's true. So yes, you
also
get
sounds
a big
like a makeup line to me.
All
by
right.
the way.
All right, we're not a makeup podcast.
I'm sorry.
I need you to pull back.
I just have this big.
There's
marketing
no
energy.
visual here. There's no visual here. You're not wearing concealer right now.
Oh, far from it. Everything is laid bare, shall we say?
Nothing is hidden here.
That's true.
So the nearby towns had lots of hearsay when it came to this family. Andreas was suspected to beat his wife. Neighbors claimed to often hear the children crying due to being locked in the cellar. His wife, Kazilia, was described as a, quote, busy woman who had inherited the farm due to her previous husband's death. It was claimed that she had suffered a lot of abuse from both her own father and by her husband, Andreas. Victoria was previously widowed when her husband died on the front lines of the war and lived with her family with her 2 children. Victoria and her daughter were one of the few members of the family who would often venture out to other towns. Victoria was a part of a local church choir, and her daughter, Kazilia Jr., went to school. The youngest member of the family, Joseph, Victoria's son, kind of drew some suspicion because it was believed that he was the result of an incestuous relationship between Victoria and her father. Back in 1915, Victoria had actually been sentenced to 1 month in prison for having an incestuous relationship with her father. And when Joseph was born, she made the claim that the child's father was a gentleman by the name of Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Which was someone that she had kind of had a short relationship with previously. Lorenz, however, denied being the father, and as a result, Andreas ended up being charged and sent to prison. Now,
you know, how much time would we have saved, and how much justice would we have found if we had just had Maury back in those days?
I mean, honestly,
Maury and his little envelope coming through.
Gruber, you are not the father.
like a German version of
German version of Maury.
It's good. It's a good show. So the incestuous, like the family that lives apart and that's like super secluded and isolated and whatever, like I feel like most of the time when we see families like that, we do see rumors like this spring up, and the incestuous rumor like tends to be one that repeats for some reason. If a family chooses to like live apart from society, like for some reason that just means they're fucking each other. I don't know. If you look at Pornhub recently, maybe that's the case. Seems like a lot of people are really preoccupied with that, but in recent years. But yeah, I don't know. I could just as easily kind of see somebody who maybe is like more ingrained in society, like this Schlittenbaum and whatever his name is. I could see somebody like that, like having a relationship with somebody who is more of an outcast and then like wanting to downplay that or wanting to distance themselves from that or what have you. So I could see it either way, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to hope against incest.
Yeah, I mean,
Fingers crossed.
Like I said, a lot of it is hearsay, and I think some of the hearsay led to the actual like incarcerations of them. And so I don't really know either way. Like,
it's unclear how much
evidence
there is.
Right. It's unclear as to how much evidence there is, but they have, this has happened multiple times at this point. Lorenz actually later on rescinded his claim and accepted Joseph as his child. But that was only after Victoria had met with him crying and offered him a small sum of money for child support. Because the family had like a little bit of money. Like they were humble, but like they weren't super, super wealthy, but like they were comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you were listing off all the shit that they had, and it sounded like they were doing all right.
Yeah,
for
like
farming,
they're doing good
like,
for farming.
For farmers in the 20s.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. They were
like they're
comfortable. Like it wasn't anything extravagant, but like they held their own.
Okay. A humble homestead.
A humble homestead. I can't with you.
I mean, I don't know. That phrase just hit me, girl. I was ready for that.
I want a picture of us, like American Gothic, where it's just us, but then in the words "a humble homestead" is like, in script above it.
Yeah.
Except in the back, except we're holding some. I don't know, like I've got a ball gag in or something, and then you're holding like a fucking whip or something. Who knows? So she came to him and offered him a small sum of money for child support.
Uh-huh.
And it's believed that this was most likely an attempt to buy Lorenz's paternity and exonerate her father. Because after that, once he rescinded his claim, he was, her father was released.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, allegedly.
Right. I could see it either way.
Yes. So, we can see that this family, they've got some issues. They've got issues. And so now we find ourselves in the months leading up to their murder. We know that their previous maid had started hearing strange voices and disembodied footsteps in the attic and promptly yeeted herself right the fuck out of that situation. So, we love that. We love when someone listens to their instincts. Props to you, girl.
Hell yeah. Girl, that's me. I'm out.
She
if it don't feel right, I'm out on many levels and many things in my life.
Footsteps?
No. You know what? I'm good.
Bye. I'm
Deuces.
out. They're like, what are you doing? I'm out. Bye.
Bye, girl.
Bye. How do you say bye in German? Auf Wiedersehen? Is that it? I don't know.
I'll Peter.
Wow.
I'll Peter.
I don't know.
Nah, that's not one of mine. I didn't study German, girl. All I know how to do is sing Rammstein songs. I can sing you one of them.
Maybe at the end of this episode, okay?
Got it.
We'll do that. But soon after these footsteps began to affect the entire family, Victoria had been heard making comments about the footsteps in the house and how it had been difficult for her daughter to get to sleep at night. Andreas had inspected the attic time and time again, but nothing could ever be found. They did, however, find that a lock into the house had appeared to have been tampered with, but nothing had been taken, and neither they nor any neighbor had ever reported seeing anything or anyone unusual on the property. But one evening, Andreas discovered a single set of footprints leading into the farm in the snow, but none leading away. This raised the suspicion of burglary even more, and the postman and the neighbors had confirmed seeing the tracks themselves. One day, a Munich newspaper showed up near the edge of their property, which was strange because the family never even traveled to Munich, and nobody in the family claimed to have purchased the paper. Lorenz later made claim that Andreas had come to him asking if he had seen his house key, stating that it had gone missing and that Andreas believed it to be stolen. So, fast forward to March 31st, 1922. Maria Baumgartner had been driven to the family farm by her sister for what would be both her first and last day of work. Later that evening, Maria would be slain in her room, 2-year-old Joseph in his bassinet, and the rest of the family would be led out to the barn and murdered one at a time by a blow to the head with a mattock. Which, if you're not familiar with a mattock, is kind of like a hoe.
Is it? Okay.
Like a hoe, like pickaxe type deal.
Got it.
It's a gardening tool.
Got it.
The bodies weren't discovered until 4 days later, after suspicions arose due to Cecilia's absence from school and Victoria's from choir practice. On Monday, April 3rd, the postman noticed that something wasn't right when he made note that the mail he had previously delivered had been undisturbed. Several merchants and people had stopped by as well within the 4-day period. All had noticed the unusual silence that had fallen on the farm. On the 4th day, Lorenz sent 2 of his sons to check on the family, and when they returned back with nothing, Lorenz and 2 neighbors went to search for themselves. Upon arrival, they searched the property and eventually found their way into the barn, where they discovered the 4 bodies crudely covered with hay in order to conceal the crime and one of the family's dogs tied up nearby. A lot of the initial investigation was hampered by the amount of people that were involved with the case. Bodies and items were moved around, and they cooked and ate meals in the family kitchen while doing so. Because that's a great way to, cover a crime scene case. Let's just cook meals in their fucking kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Let's while we're dusting for fingerprints over here, can you fix me an egg?
Fuck? Like, what? This sounds like some shit that we would do. Like, if we were investigating, you'd be like dusting for prints and shit, and I'd be like, well, let me just get like a nice veggie bowl together. Let me get a nice veggie quinoa power bowl. We got to keep our vitamins and minerals up as we're doing this. I'm not about to go hungry, sis. So,
I mean, I just want to know who, like...
Was there not a McDonald's around nearby? McDonald's didn't exist yet, I don't think.
I just want to know who went in there and was like, listen, I know they're not going to need this anymore, so, like, we can't let it go to waste. I'm going to fix me a sandwich.
Let me just get me some of this lunch meat here.
Let me just fix a snack.
Got it.
So, court physician Johann Baptiste performed the autopsies in the barn, reporting that he believed a mattock had been used, but hadn't been found at the crime scene. It is believed that each member of the family had been led to the barn, one by one, to be murdered. Only 5 pictures had been taken of the crime scene, 2 with the bodies in the barn, and 1 of Joseph's bassinet, 1 of the maid's chamber, and 1 of the property. In subsequent investigations, it was revealed that Victoria was the first victim, followed by her mother, followed by her father, and then her daughter. And then in the house would have been the maid, and finally, little Joseph. The younger Cecilia showed signs of surviving her initial attack, as she was found with clumps of her own hair in her hands. The older Cecilia had signs of strangulation, and Victoria had 9 star-shaped wounds to her head in addition to signs of strangulation.
What would the star shape have come from? Maybe from that.
I'm thinking from the tool, from the mattock. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe like the end of it.
Like the end.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. The overall investigation led to the belief that the perpetrators had remained on the farm in the days prior. This was because, in the days after, excuse me. This was because the cows had been fed. The families, now this was noted, but I'm wondering if this was like part of the people that were investigating, but like they made note that the family's entire supply of bread had been devoured and that the meat had recently been sliced from the pantry. And I'm wondering if that was just like one of the investigators. It was like someone made the comment like, their bread is all gone. Someone just
It was probably that motherfucker making sandwiches.
Someone just cut. Wow, look, guys, this meat has just recently been cut, and there's like a guy, it's like me in the corner, and it's like, just trying to wipe some fucking breadcrumbs off my beard.
Relatable.
Yeah. And so while it conflicts with the reports of the eerie stillness of the farm, there were witnesses who claimed to have seen smoke coming from the chimney. The initial motive was deemed a robbery. However, that was dismissed because of the fact that nothing had been taken, and any money the family had in the house, which could have easily been found, was left undisturbed. The assumption is that given the reports made by Gruber in the months prior, the perpetrator was already on the property. Misplaced roof tiles and indentions in the hay supported this, but was quickly shot down as a result of Victoria and Andreas's alleged love affair. They looked at this like hay and said, that's probably where this, Victoria and Andreas would meet secretly for their relationships and stuff like that.
For their rendezvous.
Yeah, in the hay. A little tussle in the hay, as we call it. Now, I can understand the hay, but like the roof, girl, what they do it on the roof?
I mean, sometimes you just need like a scenic environment.
Okay, but like if you were going for privacy, like I can understand like hiding in the barn in the hay, but like on the roof?
I mean, how often do people look up? You know what I'm saying? You got to be like the panther. You got to be like the tree snake.
Uh-huh. Maybe
shit.
Maybe that's what the footsteps
It's probably
were.
people fucking over our heads all the time.
That's what the footsteps were, girl. So on April 1st, a witness claimed to have seen two men at the edge of the forest and had quickly turned their faces away when they had been discovered. A repairman that had shown up to work on a piece of machinery made note that the doors had been locked and he wasn't met by anyone. He did hear the dogs barking inside the home. When he was finished with his work, he noticed that a dog was tied up outside the barn, and the barn door had been opened. And as previously stated, the dog was subsequently found in the barn and the door had been closed. So this was his statement. He was there in this 4-day period because he had come to work on a piece of machinery. Didn't see anybody there, decided whatever, I'm just going to do my work. And these are the things that he claimed to have noticed.
Huh. Okay.
So our main suspect.
We love an impartial witness.
Mm-hmm, we do. So we've got some suspects here. So we're going to move on to this.
Okay.
Our main
Let
guy.
me get out my magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Solve this case.
Solve the crime. Solve the mystery. Take the mask off. Who are you?
Scooby-Doo.
So our main suspect, Lorenz.
Lorenz, yeah.
Yes.
Obviously.
He came under suspicion by locals early in the investigation because of his several suspicious actions immediately after the discovery of the bodies. When Lorenz and his friends came to investigate...
Lorenz and his friends.
And his friends.
Lorenz and friends.
Lorenz and co. Lorenz and co. They had to break a gate to enter the barn because all of the doors were locked. However, immediately after finding the 4 bodies in the barn, Lorenz apparently unlocked the front door with a key. Now, remember, previously, Andreas had come to him talking about how his house key had went missing. Suspicious.
But do we know if Lorenz had a key
No.
before that?
No.
He didn't have a key?
We don't
know?
We don't know.
Okay, because maybe it was like a normal thing that he had a key.
Maybe. But again, we don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
So he used the key to unlock the front door and entered the house alone. When asked why he went into the house alone, he later claimed he needed to check on his son, Joseph. He was also known to have disturbed the bodies within the home. A quote from one of the neighbors that had accompanied him to the crime scene went as follows. Pole and I immediately, Pole was the other guy, the name. Paul and I immediately told Lorenz when we found the bodies that he should be careful to leave things as they are, but he replied he had to see things for himself. He then told me to feed the cattle, but I told him that we're going home and reporting to the police. Quote, he was very busy. He went straight to the cellar to fetch milk and feed the pigs. On the way home, Paul and I said nothing. It was very striking that Lorenz changed everything that could have been changed and knew exactly where everything in the house was. In my opinion, Lorenz did not often go to Hinterkaifeck, which was the name of the farm, as Andreas wouldn't have allowed it. So I think this means that more than likely he wouldn't have had a key.
Yeah, I guess, but it is suspicious. But at the same time, like, just thinking, like, in that time period, like, I could see everybody's reaction to, like, something crazy like that happening, like an entire fucking family just being wiped off the face of the earth. Like, everybody reacts to things in different ways. And so whereas one person might find that and just completely dissolve into tears, one person might fly off into a rage, one person might go completely catatonic and just, like, not have any, like, visible reaction, but clearly they're just, like, not speaking or doing anything. Mm-hmm. And then you have people, and I kind of sort of relate. I mean, I know he's a suspect and there is some suspicious behavior, but I can kind of relate to when you walk into a situation that's just, like, immeasurably bad. Not that I've ever found an entire family slaughtered and hope to never, but like, I can kind of relate to that impulse to, like, set everything right. You know what I mean? And, like, I kind of can sort of understand that mental leap of, like, okay, we have to make sure that we feed the pigs, and we have to, like, do this, and we have to do that, and we have to just set everything in order, and then everything will be organized and orderly, and everything will be okay, and it'll be like this family is not fucking murdered, you know? So I can kind of sort of see it. And then the other aspect is that livestock and stuff were, like, basically assets at that time. It wasn't, investing was not as big. You know, there were only people, unless you worked in finance or you worked in banking, investing was not a thing for you. And so these pigs were their investments, right? That was their asset. That was the homestead, the humble homestead.
The humble homestead.
So I can see where I can see where that would be a priority, and I could see where, depending on what your individual reaction to grief is, I could see where you could kind of throw yourself into doing those things instead of, like, dealing with the elephant in the room, which is the fact that this family's been completely massacred, and you need to accept, in order to call the police for something like that, you have to kind of accept that it has happened.
Yeah. And
I could see you doing literally everything else in order to avoid accepting that that's what's happened.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it is shady, and I definitely see why that would make him a fucking suspect.
Yeah.
It is weird that he had a key if he didn't go there much.
Yes.
But that could be this person's perspective. But also, it doesn't seem like their relationship was that good, so.
Yeah, I
don't know.
mean, it doesn't. From what I read, Andreas and Lorenz didn't really get along.
Yeah,
and, like,
but maybe Victoria slipped him a key, though. You know what I'm saying?
It could be.
I mean, they got to get up to the roof somehow, girl.
I mean, it's true. Maybe she did slip him the key. We never know.
Possible.
We won't know. So according to reports in the files for the case, local teacher, his name is Hans. I'm not going to Hans. Local teacher Hans discovered Lorenz visiting the remains of the demolished Hinterkaifeck in 1925. Upon being asked why he was there, Lorenz stated that the perpetrator's attempt to bury the family's remains in the barn had been hindered by the frozen ground. This was seen as evidence that Lorenz had intimate knowledge of the conditions of the ground at the time of the murders. Although, being a neighbor and familiar with the local land, he may have been making an educated guess. Another speculation was that Lorenz murdered the family after Victoria demanded financial support for young Joseph. Before his death in 1941, Lorenz conducted and won several civil claims for slander against persons who described him as the, quote, murderer of Hinterkaifeck. I don't know that the last part is a little conflicting to me because I don't see Victoria demanding money from him, especially when she initially supposedly gave him money.
Yeah, that's weird. That's super weird, actually. Yeah. So the thing with the frozen ground, it almost, I don't know, maybe I'm editorializing it in my mind, but it almost sounds like he went back there and is sort of like stuck on this crime and is like going over and over in his head maybe. And like he, like in an attempt to understand, he is kind of years later, like still processing it.
It's still haunting
or like
him,
trying, or like he's trying to like understand. To me, that comment sounds more like he's trying to understand what happened in detail rather than sharing some sort of like weird like detail from the crime, you know? And I mean, obviously, if he fucking lived there, if you go outside your house and it's fucking cold, girl, and the ground is frozen, then you know that like it would not be a good time to bury a body, you know?
This is true.
Like that doesn't necessarily seem like insider knowledge.
Yeah. I agree. To
me, it sounds like a detail that like comes to you later, like after the fact, you know?
Well, it's just something that like, I just feel like as someone who lives on that property or who lived near that property would know, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't seem
or just
like,
in the area.
It doesn't seem like it would be, you know, uncommon knowledge for someone to know that during this time period in late winter, the ground's going to be fucking, you know, hard to like try to bury somebody in.
Right.
So
it just sounds like one of those things that you remember that fucking happens to me all the time when you have like an argument with somebody or a discussion with somebody and you fucking think of what you should have said to them in the shower afterwards and you're like, damn it.
Like when you said Steen.
Yeah. Like
there's like a picture of me, like they're years and
Steen.
years down the road. And then I like come up to you. You're an old woman. I'm an old man. And you're just staring off into the distance. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And you're like, I really said Steen.
I really said that. There's going to be a lot of that in my fucking life if I choose to reflect on it. No, it just seems, to me, it seems like the kind of detail where like maybe he had been over it and over it and over it again in his mind, trying to work out what happened, try to work out like the step by step of what happened so that he could process it. And like maybe that was a detail that like closer to the event, he didn't remember that. And then maybe for some reason, like maybe it was cold that morning or whatever in 1925 when he like went there. And maybe that jogged his memory. And he was like, oh, you know, that's right. It was cold. The ground would have been frozen. So that would have hindered whatever happened. You know, I could very easily see how that all comes together.
Yeah.
But he could also be a fucking murderer.
We
allegedly
probably won't know. So the former maid even had an opinion on who she thought the killers were. Ooh. She actually suspected the tea girl. She was like, I got an opinion, girl.
What's the tea?
Let's get in on this rumor mill.
Because you know maids know every fucking thing that's going on in that fucking
true.
house. She knew they was fucking on that roof.
Mm-hmm. She heard it. She said, I ain't about. That's why she left. Mm-hmm. So she had her own opinion on who she thought the killers were. She suspected two brothers by the names of Anton and Carl Bichler to have committed the murders.
Bichler? Baskin?
Bichler. I don't know. We're going to call them Anton and Carl.
Got it.
Anton had
Sounds
helped.
Like a sitcom.
Anton and Carl. Anton and Carl on the Homestead. Anton had helped with the potato harvest on Hinterkaifeck and therefore knew the grounds. She said that Anton talked to her often about the Gruber family. Anton reportedly suggested that the family ought to be dead. What they did to him, I don't know.
The fuck?
But he just claimed, I think
What's the beef there? Did they
think-
stiff him? Did they stiff him on his wages when he came to harvest them potatoes?
I don't know. I'm just like, were y'all fucking? Was the maid and this aunt, were they fucking?
I
Are
mean,
they
I was
in
going to
on
ask
it?
about the nature of their relationship, to be quite honest with you.
I don't really know the nature of their relationship, but
It don't seem good if she's nominating him for murder.
I think an educated guess would be that he had probably heard the rumors about, the family and just figured that, if it was true, then I guess he just thought that they should be dead. But anyway, just seems like a strange thing that you would bring up to the maid. The maid also emphasized in her interrogation that the farm dog who barked at everyone never barked at Anton. She also claimed that Carl would often talk to her through her window at night. She thought that Anton and Carl could have committed the murder together with someone by the name of George Siegel, who had worked at Hinterkaifeck and knew of the family, quote, fortune. But, Supposedly, George had broken into the home in November of 1920 and had stolen a number of items, though he denied it. He did state that he had carved the handle of the murder weapon when he was working at Hinterkaifeck and knew that the tool would have been kept in the barn passage. So,
That's
some
interesting.
suspicions. Also is kind of corroborated by a previous witness statement who claimed to have saw two men at the edge of the forest. And then when that witness looked at them, they kind of turned their faces away after the deaths of the family, supposedly.
Okay.
So, my guess is I kind of personally lean towards them. But there was an even weirder suspect.
I love it. I love it. Reserving
Because
judgment.
once they couldn't
Give me the
figure
weird
out,
suspect.
once they, because you know how things
devil?
happen, right? No.
Did they nominate the devil? And behind the third door, we have Satan himself.
Satan! And he's coming out. And he's
Hey.
yeah. It's Price is Right music in the background.
He's walking out like an NBA basketball player.
And there's some Stan girls who's yay, go Satan!
With posters.
Yep. Titties out, honey. They've got pentagrams on the nipples.
We love a pentagram little, what are they called? Oh, pasty. We love a pentagram pasty.
Yeah. Pentagram, pentacle, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Anyway, they've got those on. And they're cheering for Satan, but no. Actually, it was Victoria's late husband, Carl, who turned out to be a suspect, right? Because even
what?
he was dead.
What?
Yeah. So this is what happened. So
They
when the
think this
police
man done
just
came
don't
back
get,
to life and murdered people.
possibly no, but you know that when,
He
especially
could've
back
faked his
then.
death.
Well, I'm getting
That
there.
shit was easier back
I'm
then.
getting there.
Okay.
But things like this happen when red ends, we don't really have a suspect that we could name. So now we're really just grasping at straws, right? Mm-hmm. So her late husband, Carl, had been reported to have died in the war in December of 1914. However, his body was never recovered. It was suspected that he could have somehow faked his death and murdered the family out of revenge of Victoria and her father's relationship. This couldn't be substantiated as many of Carl's fellow soldiers testified to seeing his dead body. However, there was a rather odd story of a German-speaking Russian soldier who claimed to his comrades in the Second World War that he was the Hinterkaifeck murderer. So,
What?
that was kind of thrown out, but again, like I said, we're grasping at straws here.
Yeah, that seems really complicated to me. And it also seems
It seems improbable.
like him bragging about being the Hinterkaifeck murderer is some dumbass shit that soldiers would say to each other in basic. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
It sounds like some shit that they would say as a joke or again, I say that, but who are these fucking people joking about being murderers? Because I've never been I murdered a whole family. Let me tell you about it. What a great story. What the fuck? Nor do I know anybody who would do that, but I guess it takes all kinds.
It does.
I
It do.
guess.
It
I don't know.
do.
That one seems like a stretch to me.
It was definitely a stretch. It
Yeah.
was 1,000% a stretch. So the case went nowhere after this. The skulls of the victims had been sent to Munich for investigation and allegedly been brought to a clairvoyant to try and get some insight as to what happened.
Love it. Love it. Tell me what happened, Miss Cleo. What'd she say?
Nothing.
Got it. Rare.
She couldn't find anything. She was
Rare
like-
in her profession. Damn, okay, sis. All right, she might have been legit. Look, I don't see it.
She said, I don't know.
I don't see it. I don't know.
I don't know. Who?
I love that. Instead of making some shit up, she just said,
No, girl, she said, I don't know.
okay.
That didn't happen.
I respect you, sister. I'm sorry I made fun of you to start with. I thought you were going to be full of shit.
Nah. She was just like, I don't know. But again, allegedly. They were allegedly brought to a clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
But so with the upheaval of World War II, the skulls were lost forever and the bodies remain buried without their heads to this day, which is terrifying.
Huh.
The farm itself was torn down and a memorial was placed on the property. In 1999, an elderly woman contacted the authorities claiming her former landlord admitted to having information about the Hinterkaifeck killings. Officials investigated this tip and learned the landlord supposedly made this claim in 1935. However, it was too late as the potential suspect mentioned in the lead was no longer alive in 99, and nobody knows who it was.
Girl, so why'd you call? I mean, I guess good job, but also he did.
But why not
girl.
even still name it? I mean, even when it posthumously.
Well, because I guess there's no way to know whether the landlord
No way to prove it. But
yeah, there's no way to prove it. So if you put it out now after the person is deceased and there's no way to like confirm it, it could be slander.
Well, it was just the landlord had information about
Right.
it, so we never really know who
Not
it
that he was
was,
the
or not that he was the murderer. But
that sounds
anyway.
like some bullshit that somebody would tell you though to like.
But how often
chat
do you
you
think
up.
that happens, right? Like
Like,
years
oh, I have-
after these cold cases
Yeah.
where like people just all of a sudden come up with
Right.
information
Right.
that happens out of nowhere.
Right.
Like
I don't know about that.
suspect.
Yeah. It
We-
sounds to me like some shit that a dude would tell you at a bar to get you to like sleep.
But
with him.
like
I don't know, to strike up a conversation.
Hey, my landlord had some information.
No, I'm talking about the landlord.
Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds like some shit the landlord
Oh,
would have
yeah,
said
yeah.
back in his day,
He's
right?
like,
Because it was
"Let me tell you something."
35.
Especially if he's one of those people that just like to talk shit.
Right,
and, like,
because there's
shoot the
a
shit.
ton of those kinds of people
Yeah.
in the country. Like, I can see this man. I know this man. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with this man. Like, I know this person who is like, let me tell you something about this horrible traumatic event that happened way back when. I know all about it. I'm the dude with the intel.
I got the
Right? And
I
they don't
got
fucking
that
know anything.
I got that smoke.
Right.
Anyway, in 2007, more than 80 years after the Gruber family and their maid were killed, students at a German police academy used modern techniques to investigate the unsolved case. The students ruled out all but one suspect they believe committed the murders at the Hinterkaifeck farm. However, the suspected killer is dead, so they didn't publicly name the person they think is responsible for the massacre, out of respect for the suspect's relatives who are still alive. Subtle hint, it was Lorenz.
Yeah, I feel like probably.
And in 2017, author Bill James wrote in his book, The Man from the Train, that he believed the killer to be Paul Mueller, who I believe we mentioned in an older episode as a suspect in one of many axe murders across the U.S., especially the Villisca axe murders.
Yeah.
The crime scenes are very similar in both method and motive, and it is believed that Paul could have departed the U.S. for his homeland in 1912 after police began to develop a pattern to the killings. Mm-hmm. He was going
That
back
makes
to his
sense to
humble
me.
homestead, girl.
That makes sense to me, though. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense to me that, like, if Lorenz was the one that group of German students couldn't, that they couldn't prove he hadn't done it, like, that to me would make sense because, like, he had such a, like, he had that whole relationship with Victoria going on. There was probably a lot of secrets being kept there of, like, when he was coming and going and whatever. Like, so it makes sense to me that, like, Yeah, he was definitely guilty of like sneaking around the property and keeping secrets and secret rendezvous, which is the best kind of rendezvous. But I don't necessarily think that makes him a murderer. But I do see where that would make him very difficult to rule out because, like, I mean, he is fucking over there being shady, but he just in it for the nookie. He ain't in it for the murder.
True.
I don't know why I believe in him so strongly, but I really do.
Passionate about
I don't know.
Lorenz.
I just identify with him.
Pro Lorenz over here.
Lorenz. I'm feeling it. He's like, in my mind, he's played by Robert Redford.
Yeah. It was interesting to me. I kind of have like, I could kind of go either one of the three ways that we have talked about. Like, I could see Mueller. I do think that it's definitely, out of the three that I'm going to mention, it is the most of a stretch because of the fact that, you know, we're on separate fucking pieces of land, separate continents right now.
I mean,
know?
I guess it's a stretch, but it's not that much of a, like, to me, that's not, because Paul Mueller was very transient. And so to me, it's not that much of a stretch that if he felt like the police were onto him in the States, that he would book it back to Germany.
Right.
Like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I definitely have some suspicions about Lorenz, especially because of the key. And but I don't know. My gut leans toward these two like brothers who are like talking about they want this family dead. And then all of a sudden there's two random people who show up on the side of the fucking forest after they are dead.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Weren't they ruled out by the students though? Or
supposedly the
maybe.
Students ruled
they
out
didn't
all
officially publish a name,
one, but
I
they
guess.
didn't officially publish anything. And again, we're talking about students, like not like, not like I'm not
Look,
dogging.
Here's the deal:
education.
we have done a total of like 2 hours of research on Wikipedia. No, I'm kidding, but like, okay,
I'm just saying.
I'm pretty sure they were like criminal justice students, though, right? Like
mean,
with a
maybe.
fucking degree and shit.
I mean, maybe.
And here's us. We're podcasters. They are just students disregarding that piece of information.
Yeah, supposedly they ruled all but Lorenz out, but still, I don't know.
But they didn't say the name.
But they didn't say
They
it,
just
so-
looked at the body and whistled.
Well, they ruled out all but one. They never officially claimed that their suspect was Lorenz, but like
Everybody
that's
knows
very heavily implied
Right.
to be Lorenz. So here we are 93 years later and still no closer in discovering the answers as to who murdered this family. Instead, we're left with several questions: a who, a why, and a how. Who would systematically annihilate an entire family and their maid? What would have been the driving force to do so? And how would they have lured them out to the barn? One at a time. And that, to me, is the strangest part of the case. I mean, other than the fact that, like, we don't know who did it, but, like, according to the investigation, with the way that the bodies were laid out, that's how they came to their belief that they were killed one at a time in the order that I had mentioned previously.
Well,
So-
to me, that almost makes it sound like if we focus on that detail, which, of course, to actually investigate, to have an actual investigation, you have to fit all of the pieces in. But if we look at that detail, that would almost lend credence to the idea that you had two people, one person in the house, maybe with these people tied up or restrained in some way, in kind of like a holding cell, whether that was the living room or what it was. And then one person in the barn, and then they were just walking them out execution style, right? To execute them, to say it roughly, in the barn, right? So that almost lends credence to the idea that you got two people, the two brothers,
Yep.
ostensibly. So, I mean, that kind of almost leans more in your direction, I think.
Yeah.
Because Mueller was very, if I remember correctly from when we covered him, he was very like all over the place. Like it was a very like abrupt thing. Like
Yeah.
he would kind of he wouldn't kick down the door, but when he attacked, it was very frantic. Like the scenes that he left were very frantic, very bloody, very like it was clear that he caught the person by surprise. But this doesn't really sound like that. This sounds very controlled.
Yeah.
and orderly, which doesn't, I guess that doesn't really fit his profile as much.
Yeah. So there's that. There's the fact that, the dog was tied up in the barn. So could they have done something with the dog that would have lured them out, because of the dog? Like, did they do something to the dog to cause it to yell or bark or something like that? And then
But
lead
then
them
everybody
out
would go
one
at
a time?
once. Like, why would they go?
Yeah,
one
why
at a-
would it
you
have
know?
been one at a time?
To me, that seems like they were being walked one at a time.
Yeah.
From one place where everybody was being held to the barn,
Yeah. And I did read a little bit later, like after the house had been torn down, that there was like a knife, like a pocket knife or something that supposedly didn't belong to anyone on the family, but it was found on the property while they were tearing it down. So, there's a strange knife afterwards, but it never really led to anywhere. Yeah, to me, it sounds like that they were kind of led out. That someone was in the barn, got them there, or, that they were tied up either in the house. It's strange because the maid was found in her room, and from the picture, she was under her bed, I think is what it looked like.
Huh.
And the baby was in the bassinet, which had been, it was crumbled to the floor because it was a single blow and it broke the bassinet. So they were kind of there together. So the maid in her room, I don't know. It's just weird. But I definitely think two people. I just don't see one person being able to do this.
Subdue all those
to subdue
people.
them all at once. Like, yes, they were, two of them were older. And then you had, I just don't see it. I think there had to be multiple people involved in this. I think that there had to be multiple people. So, but that's my story. That's the cold case of the Hinterkaifeck murders. So, which is, it was really creepy. I think it's one of Germany's most strange and unsolved cases. Especially
I've definitely
considering
heard the
the
Hinterkaifeck
footprints
name before.
in the snow.
Yeah.
Because you have to think that. It's like they found footprints coming into the house, but none leading away at one point. So who knows?
It sounds like this is one of those cases where I have to be somewhat suspect of the initial investigation too,
Definitely.
though, because the initial investigation was apparently handled so poorly, right?
Yeah.
So the details like that it can be really easy to get fixated on, like there's footsteps going in, but none going out. Like it's kind of one of those things where is that a key element of the case? And does that tell us something about well, maybe they exited from a different door, maybe they exited from somewhere else, or maybe the people who were investigating this just fucked up. You know what I mean? Maybe the sun rose on the other side of the house and melted the footprints that they would have found by the time that they were out there investigating.
Well, the
or
footprints
maybe
happened a few months prior. So that was part of the weird things that were happening
beforehand.
before,
That's true.
and had been corroborated by a couple people, the postman who had seen or been had noticed them. But you also have to think the strange paper that just showed up out of nowhere from Munich that was found at the edge of the woods that I don't know. It
just seems very this is one of those cases where you have to be suspicious of the information that you're given, because it sounds to me like it could be very unreliable. Like how all of the weird stuff that was happening leading up to it, how observant was the family? Were they, it's, and then the investigation sounds like it was totally fucking bungled. Yeah.
And they only took 5 pictures. Like I said, there's only 5 pictures, and then it was fumbled from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these cold cases happened because everything was fucked up at the beginning. I think that, and like I said, I'm not a student at a fucking police force or whatever the fuck that is, and I don't study this shit, but it just seems to me that if you don't, that whatever you discover is crucial, and how you discover it and how you handle those things is, it's a crucial part in not fucking up everything, because a lot of these cold cases just seem to happen because like people just didn't do the right things at the start of it.
Yeah.
So
Then it gets a hard fucking job. We don't do it, so
it's
just our job to tell you to be better.
We just sit and talk about it hundreds of years later.
Yes.
Well,
that was very interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I had heard of that name before. I had heard Hinterkaifeck before, but had not really ever looked into the case.
Yeah.
So, because of my aversion to German things, other than Rammstein. No, I'm kidding. All right. Should we talk about our socials?
I
Should we
think
do the
so.
damn
I
thing?
mean, I think unless we, I don't think there's anything else to say, folks. Fuck. Like, what else do you want from us on this day?
If
I
you've
don't know what you
solved the
want
case-
from me. Are you the Hinterkaifeck killer? Are you listening
If
to us
you
right now?
are, or if you've solved the case, send us an email at thehaunted.heartpodcast@gmail.com and let us know.
An angry
angry
letter
German.
from one of those like police people.
Probably.
Those cadets. I don't know what to fucking call them.
Cadets.
I don't know.
Oh my God. All right. If you want to connect with us online, you know what to do. Find us on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast, on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. We are also on Facebook. If you search The Haunted Heart Podcast, you can join our closed Facebook group. It is closed for your privacy, so that everybody on your friends list, your family, your Aunt Gertrude, they don't have to see all the weird shit that you're into. If you request to join, either Kenny, myself, or a member of our Murder Mod Squad, we'll approve you. And then you can get your horror memes on. You can get your true crime case studies on. You can get all of it. You can get it all, girl. And if you still want more, then you can check out patreon.com/thehauntedheart. We have all sorts of extra bonus material. If you're going back through episodes and you've listened to everything and you want more bullshit, then you can check out the exclusive bullshit that we have on our Patreon. And it's as little as $1 to join, so it doesn't have to be a big chunk of change.
Patreon is for those greedy bottoms who just want more.
Yes, it is. It is. I think that's it. Oh, if you have any suggestions for things that you'd like us to cover, for films that you'd like us to watch for Netflix and kill, shoot us an email at thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you just want to say, hey, girl.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, just shoot us a little message there. And as always, we're going to ask you to rate and review this fucking podcast, because we always do.
1,000% rate. It's mostly me.
I want reviews.
It's mostly me,
It
less
is.
Katie. I think Katie just doesn't want to know what you think of us. But which is why
That's not true. I want reviews as well. I just don't give a fuck.
I just you know what? I just love feedback.
Yeah.
That I won't listen to. But I just want to know. We did have another reviewer who left us 5 stars by the name of Anyanka Angel, who said, I love you guys, and even though I say I'm going food shopping and felt a little hurt by your comments today, I'll still give you 5 stars.
Amazing. Look, here's the deal. I have people in my life who say food shopping. They are wonderful, beautiful people. I did not mean to by any means malign the people of Philly and Southern Jersey. I love all of you, and God bless you. And I didn't mean to malign you at all. I love you and your food shopping. And if you wanted to, we could even go food shopping together.
After quarantine, though.
After quarantine, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So until quarantine's over, folks, and we can get out into the streets and fucking strip our shirts off and run naked and with our little pentagram pasties on, you know what you got to do, folks. You've got to stay spooky.
A humble homestead.